The Rudy Giuliani headlines that came out, do they give you concern that there were things going on with Rudy Giuliani that may compromise the efforts here?
Yes, they do give me concern. I see this story, and I think you covered it earlier fairly well. From what I read, it looks like Mr. Giuliani was in discussions with the Ukrainian government to investigate money that had been taken out of the country, maybe stolen, at the same time he was representing the president. Now, from what I read, he has not necessarily done anything illegal or unethical, but I think Mr. Giuliani has some serious questions to answer.
Now, the president, I argue, made a problem for himself and his lawyer when he said, I don't know what Rudy was doing over there. You have to ask him. Now, not only is that a problem for Rudy, because Rudy's supposed to be acting in the interest of his client, it's his ethical obligation. So if the president didn't know what he was doing when Rudy says he did, that's a problem if that comes to pass. But secondarily, we know from the telephone call, we know from Sondland, we know from the collective conscience of the people who testified, the president knew very well what Rudy was doing there because he was the one who wanted him to do it.
Look, I can't speak for the president, but concerning this conflict with the Ukrainian government, I think the optics are very bad, and Mr. Giuliani has to explain.
No. I think the president's got a problem, too. Do you think the president didn't know what was going on when he said to the Ukrainian president, talk to Rudy?
You know, I don't know what that comment meant. It could mean he didn't know exactly what Giuliani was doing. Well, you'll have to ask the president.
Well, I don't have to. He gave us the transcript. And when they're talking about what he wants, he says, talk to Rudy, talk to Barr. Zelensky says, thanks for Rudy. Good to get the information from Rudy. How can the president plausibly deny knowledge?
Look, it could be he does not know exactly what negotiations Giuliani was involved in. Of course, I don't know what the comment meant. I'm just telling you my opinion.
But the call was perfect. How is it not perfectly clear to you, Fred?
I don't know. Let's just move on.
I've told you what I know move on, Fred? You were an intelligence expert. This is what you looked at. The idea of somebody in an interview with you said, yeah, I really don't know what was going on. But you said, you directed the activity in there. Your guy who you spoke to on the phone about this says he was doing it at your direction through Rudy. I mean, isn't this open and shut? He's not telling the truth. The only question is why?
Look, as I said, you'll have to ask the president what that comment meant.
I can't ask the president. He won't come on the show. And when we ask him this, he calls us the enemy of the people and 5 not-so-clever nicknames and moves on. You, I'm asking because I'm hoping you'll be an honest broker.
Well, I've told you what I know. I haven't asked the president either.
Does it concern you that the president says that he doesn't know when all indications are he did know and wanted it done?
I wanted to raise something with you, Chris, the American Cancer Society.
These banners aren't subtle, and the feeling behind them isn't new. Many British Jews don't trust Jeremy Corbyn.
So when Jeremy Corbyn gets up and says anti-Semitism is abhorrent, has no place in our society, you simply don't believe him?
I don't believe it. The words are there, the action has not been there for a long time.
The Labour leader probably shouldn't have been surprised this might come up on the day he wanted to talk about peace between races and religions. Far more damaging than the protesters' screams were the British chief rabbi's carefully chosen words published in a national newspaper. Ephraim Mervis argued Corbyn is unfit to be Prime Minister. The claims that the party is doing everything it reasonably can to tackle anti-Jewish racism and that it has investigated every single case are a mendacious fiction. It is a failure of culture. It is a failure of leadership. A new poison, sanctioned from the top, has taken root in the Labour Party. In response, the Labour Party quickly condemned anti-Semitism, but Jewish concerns about Corbyn stem from his past. He's been accused of getting too friendly with known anti-Semites. This video is a famous example.
I'd also invited friends from Hamas to come.
He later expressed regret for the comment. And as Labour leader, he's accused of allowing a permissive culture that's failed to stamp out anti-Jewish hatred.
At best, Jeremy Corbyn doesn't care about anti-Semitism. I think it's worse than that. I think he's actively complicit in it.
Stephen Pollard edits the country's biggest Jewish newspaper and recently dedicated the front page to a message for non-Jewish voters.
When you cast your vote, bear that in mind. Bear in mind the fact that one of our ethnic minorities in this country regards one of the party leaders, Jeremy Corbyn, as being a racist.
Anti-Semitism in any form is vile and wrong. It is an evil within our society.
After years of repeatedly condemning anti-Semitism, Jeremy Corbyn still hasn't persuaded the people who care most about this issue. And if many Jews don't believe him, few will vote for his party when the country chooses its next Prime Minister in just over 2 weeks. Phil Black, CNN, London.
The former Navy Secretary forced out by President Trump has just penned a scathing op-ed in the Washington Post. This is breaking right now. Richard Spencer was dismissed after the president intervened in the case of a Navy SEAL accused of war crimes. Let's dig in deeper with our experts and analysts. And Mark Mazzetti, let me go to you first because there may be some new information in all of this coming from the former Secretary of the Navy. He says that the president was involving himself in this case from the very beginning. And it says before the trial began in March, he received 2 phone calls from the president asking him to lift Gallagher's confinement in a Navy brig. He says the former Navy Secretary says he pushed back twice. And he goes on to say, I came to believe that the president's interest in the case stemmed partly from the way the defendant's lawyers and others had worked to keep it front and center in the news media. Which means, by and large, on Fox News, which he watches all the time. What do you make of this?
Well, there is new information in this op-ed, right? He is actually giving new details about the president's involvement in the case.
Right.
And as you said, what it boils down to is the president watches Fox News, and this was a case that was championed by analysts on Fox News and sort of painted as a hero against a system that was unjust. And I mean, this is a very, very important thing for the military and the military justice system, having what they call command influence, people above superior officers in the case, including even the President of the United States, weighing in on the military justice system because it could prejudice the entire system. They try to avoid it as much as possible. And this is an extraordinary case of the president talking again and again, intervening in a case that, even after it's resolved, to try to restore what he says is justice for a hero. So it's incredibly unusual in the military justice system to have this case of the president getting so directly involved.
Yeah, St. Vinograd, it sounds like the president was pressuring the Navy Secretary to get what he wanted out of this, to get what Fox News wanted out of it.
That's exactly right, Jim. But just from a macro level, I mean, think about it. You can get a Navy secretary fired because he disagreed with the president. You can get an ambassador to Ukraine recalled just by putting something on Fox News. I mean, this has larger implications than just the military justice system. This really signals to anyone around the world that if they have a bone to pick or an axe to grind on anything, they just need to feed it into certain media outlets. And I will also note that Spencer writes in his op-ed that he did something that a lot of other people in his position in the government haven't done. He says that he also sent a note directly to the president, basically telling him to stop and telling him that what he was doing was unhelpful. That's something we have not seen a lot of officials do. And Spencer also writes that the president has no understanding of a reminder that the president has very little understanding of what it means to be in the military, to fight ethically, or to be governed by a uniform set of rules and practices. That is a former Secretary of the Navy commenting on President Trump's behavior. That is a damning statement from the Secretary of the Navy, and unfortunately, it's been true in so many instances.